Computer. Well, okay, we are recording. Hi, everyone. This is David P. France, and I'm coming to you from Basel, Switzerland. And before we get started, I want everyone who is out there to feel free to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube and BitChute channels. We're out there, David P. France TV. And also make sure that you tell people what you're up to in terms of tell people what we're up to and share and like and do all of the things so that we can start to build the channel and more people can know about all of the different people who've already interviewed with us. They're fantastic. So as we start, we're starting with a new group of people, not necessarily new. The founder has been here with us before, but it's the founder of Fun Freelance Dance and his team. This is Jamiel, Laurence. Look, Jamiel, we talked to you. We spoke days ago. We went very, very long, maybe 90 minutes. There's some people that have actually watched the entire video. But tell us why, we are here as a group again with Fun Freelance Dance and what you guys are up to.
Okay, so for those of you that didn't hear the last podcast, my name is Jamiel Laurence, and I am the founder of #FunFreelanceDance, as per the t-shirts. I set up Fun Freelance Dance as a way to get freelance dance artists and their supporting artists and services back into the studio, return to their craft, and back working on paid engagements. And today I'm here with some of my founding #team, as you'll see us online, with each person here fulfilling a slightly different role within that sort of founding group from our launch in London.
I think it's really important that that we all are here. I think that there are certain conditions that are happening as a result of where we find ourselves worldwide. Let me introduce each member of the founding team, and then each of you can talk about a bit of your background and tell us how you came to be involved with Fun Freelance Dance. Let's start with Matthew. Matthew, if you'd like to start.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name's Matt Gregory, and I've been a ballet pianist for about 14 years now for various companies and schools in the UK and abroad, actually. So yeah, for 14 years I've been doing that, and I got involved with Fun Freelance Dance because Luke said to me, "Oh, my friend Jamiel needs a ballet pianist for a class or something." And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. We're in a pandemic. There's no money. Yeah, I could do with a class. And then it was actually Luke that put us in touch. And then, Jamiel, as he does, he just calls you out the blue, doesn't he? Like, he just calls you. Like, he'd rather call than send a text. So he called me, and then we just spoke on the phone, and he explained what was going on with Fun Freelance Dance. And I was like, wow, this is an amazing thing to start and to be a part of. And then so from sort of September onwards, there were like 4 consecutive Sundays where there was things going on. And I played for one of those ballet classes live with dancers in the studio, which after so long being in that pandemic and not seeing live dancers in a ballet studio and playing that beautiful piano as well, it was just such a wonderful thing to start getting back into work, having had 4 months unemployment, as it were. And so, those 4 consecutive Sundays happened. And then there was more work that came off the back of that in December, where we were doing the online classes, which are still going. And then I sort of said to Jamiel, well, I can help you get live music online because of my experience in the first lockdown with, through my musician friends that have all said, oh, well, we're playing for ballet classes online and this is how you do it. This is what you need. This is the setup, the technology that you need. And this is the sort of best way to do it. So the dancers on screen can have live music in their space. There's no interruption. There's no delay. It's crystal clear. And then we did a week of classes in December where I did all the ballet class playing, which was employment. And then I sort of was instrumental in sorting out the technology and providing the equipment to do that.
Let me ask you real quick, where are you based right now?
In Southeast London, just outside near Greenwich.
Let's say, when you first got the call, did you know how far the idea could actually go? I mean, what was it about it that resonated with you besides the fact that you would get some sort of work?
The thing that resonated was getting freelance self-employed artists back into work when we'd had very little help from the government, only our cease grants, and some people sort of fell through that gap and didn't get anything. And so it's a chance to get to build this initiative where money will support freelance work, because the arts are so underfunded.
Right.
It's going to grow and grow and grow, and eventually there'll be a huge pot that will pay a lot of freelance work.
Well, let's I'll make this comment, and I want to talk to Bryony. It's Bryony, right? Bryony. Okay, I want to make sure I get. Well, I want to say that the arts typically always underfunded, right? And in the United States, we do not have the kind of support that you guys have, right? So I'm acutely aware of the situation in general. And by being and traveling throughout the UK, I understood, I said, well, they're just a couple years away from where we are now in the United States in terms of funding. And I think this pandemic has actually picked up the speed in which that is happening. So let's go to Bryony. I know I'm butchering it. Tell us a bit about yourself, and then how you were involved, how you came to be involved with Fun Freelance Dance.
So I'm Bryony. It's a difficult one, and lots of variations along the way. But I was part of the founding kind of crew, and since have been like a regular teacher on the #FreeClass series. And I just remember this, like, being in, like Matthew said, that we had this kind of 4 months period of like, what the hell is going on, essentially. And then this thing just cropped up on this auditions page, like Jamiel, Laurence, Fun Freelance Dance. And I just remember going, oh my God, something's happening. And I think I remember writing a really passionate email to Jamiel, and that it was, I think it was all of the 4 months of like, I've not been doing this, like I've lost my job, everything's kind of crumbling around me. And I put it all into this email to Jamiel, and he obviously couldn't refuse. Passionate email. So Jamiel called me, we got involved, and yeah, that's kind of my story into it. But I think we all share something quite similar in that we've come from having fairly regular work and feeling kind of supported in a way, I guess. And the pandemic has just proved how, like, on a knife edge the arts is and can be. The cracks that were there before, maybe hidden a little bit, are now like big crevices that we're trying to jump over, and we can't do that anymore. We can't. So
yeah. Where are you located? Are you
currently? I'm actually in Hull, in the north. North England. But yeah, I was in London when we did the original, but I got out for the next couple of lockdowns.
Okay. Well, let's move over to Luke. Luke, tell us about yourself and how you came to be involved with Fun Freelance Dance.
So I'm Luke Ahmet. I used to dance with Jamiel actually a very, very long time ago in Scottish Ballet. So we go way back. And when the lockdown, we were kind of getting into the sort of first lockdown, I got a phone call from Jamiel saying, I really want to set up this initiative to sort of to look after the freelancers, actually. And as the story sort of unraveled, I thought it was a great way of somebody that was on full furlough pay to really reach out to the dance community and the freelancers to really kind of help us get back into work. And like Matthew had said earlier, some of us really did fall through the cracks. I went freelance only about just over 2 years ago. So there was a lot of things I didn't qualify for in terms of government support. So I was really kind of, up a creek without a paddle, that phrase. So yeah, getting involved with this was was something to look forward to, and also to be paid to do what you love, you know. So yeah, that's
where your
why I got involved.
Your camera
still
is
there?
Your camera.
Sorry, my internet is terrible.
Yeah. Tell us where are you located right now?
I'm back. Sorry, I'm in East London, just in Bethnal Green.
And the reason why I'm asking you guys is that I want to get people a sense people who are not in the UK. You know, the diversity in terms of the cities, right? Most people, at least Americans, they're only thinking about London, right? And when I traveled, I went to the north, I went to Liverpool. I mean, I've heard of Hull, right? I wanted to know, I went to Bath. I went to places just to see, you know, what was going on. I even was at the airport, the small airport, which I will never take again. That is north of London. They call it, I think they believe it's in London, but it's not in London. You know, it's like maybe,
Luton.
Oh, never again, right? But at least I experienced it, right? I mean, it was full on. I mean, that's another story. Let's go on to Sean. Sean, tell us about yourself. Tell us how you became involved with Fun Freelance Dance, and you know, what's going on with you.
Yeah, so I'm Sean Moss, and I'm a professional freelance contemporary dancer. And before lockdown, I was quite similar to Luke in that I went freelance only a year and a half ago, or so, I think 2.5 years now. And that kind of led me to fall through some cracks. And I was in a similar position where I was just browsing audition websites. I'd been doing so throughout lockdown, kind of in what I suppose is kind of vain hope of just thinking, oh, you know, one day something will come up. And then, yeah, this Fun Freelance Jamiel Laurence thing came up, and I was really intrigued immediately because something was happening. But for me, what really captured my attention was the fact that it was something funded in a different way. And I found that both exciting in a lockdown, but also just as something generally that seemed quite exciting to me. It seemed like something different, something that might represent maybe something more robust, both before and after this lockdown kind of happens. And I thought it was a really exciting idea to use what's going on now as an opportunity, not just to try and kind of fill gaps over a pandemic, but also try and kind of come up with a new way of doing things. So I sent another kind of long, I imagine mine was more rambling than passionate. It was long email, and Jamiel kind of, and phoned me up in this very room and got me involved, and I became a team member for the London launch. And since then I've been very privileged to kind of benefit from the classes that Fun Freelance have been putting on. And I've actually, I'm clearly a bit of a fan. I've done every single one. Which has led me to kind of have this brilliant experience of being taught by these lovely people and many others besides, including Jamiel as well, and have this incredible stable base to build around. And I've been feeding back to Jamiel, as of many of the people taking part in the classes, talking about kind of what's great about them, how to improve, how to get things involved, hearing from Matthew about the kind of the live music stuff. That sounds amazingly exciting as well. And it's, so for me, it's become something that went from something I was really actively involved in the creation process of and being in the studio. And then it's now a massive part of my kind of like home life as well, which is really lovely. Yeah.
That's exciting. I think it's really exciting to hear that you guys are embracing this. I mean, you call it, I guess in the UK, you use the word scheme. Can I use that word? It's a new scheme, it's a new structure, and it came right at the right moment, right? I mean, and you guys are not. Is there any resistance from any of the people involved? Meaning, like they're saying, "Oh, you know, I don't know." It seems like everybody's so into it. There's no one saying, "Well, I'll do it," but you understand what I'm saying? Is there anything like that, Jamiel? I mean, do you want to elaborate?
I think so. What's important for everybody that's listening to understand is that the only person within this group I knew was Luke, to begin with, and through Luke that grew into Matthew, and then through the public call out I did, everybody else you see here. Bryony did write me a very, very long email, and it wasn't like an audition letter, because I write audition letters. It was just self-expression of how she felt about the situation. And the same with Sean. Bryony's was longer, but that's not a negative, Sean. I think that I'd been told by people who'd formerly been freelancers or knew about the freelance community that I might look magnanimous, or, you know, maybe I was doing what a lot of other dancers in other companies were doing, which was building my own brand with my name attached. And, you know, this went out always as Fun Freelance Dance first, and I'm the founder, like, not even second. That's sort of irrelevant to the problem. The other thing is that we spoke on the podcast about ideas being these living, breathing things that kind of enter us. And I still don't fully know why I did this thing. It just, at the time it came into me and it was like, this has to happen right now. And the other final thing is the mention of funding structures. It still, I don't think, was clear for anyone but me in the beginning stages of the launch where this money was coming from, who these people were that were giving money. And that's why I did everything I could to promote publicly, almost, I mean, after a few hundred, it gets very difficult, but to promote publicly anyone that gave anything from £10 to, in John and Hilary Austin's case, £4,000, or George Miller as well, giving nearly £1,000 now of website fees, maintenance, help with technology and how to set up the email inboxing and all of this. So it's become clearer over time, I think, for everyone that there is this pot of money, and that it will be publicly, you know, it's out there for public scrutiny. I'm telling everyone what everything costs and what I'm spending and how I'm spending it. And I haven't yet had that negative feedback of any kind when it comes to the idea. We do get challenging conversations about what might be a better way of doing X, Y, Z. And one of those at the moment is that, like we were saying with Matthew, it was somehow simpler to do live music in the studio with the other dancer. But now I need to shift focus and achieve musicians in the Zoom setting, which, first of all, the pool of musicians that can achieve that's quite small. And second, I need teachers that are used to working in that way. And that might be a good way to bring in the queen of Zoom herself, Nina Thilas-Mohs, because Nina was Zoom teaching before anybody else I know was doing it, literally day one of the pandemic. And she really helped me formulate the free class idea, which came once we were no longer able to do anything live.
Well, let's talk to Nina, and then when we finish, I want to go back to you, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to really explain more or less the structure for people who are just, you know, have no idea what this means. Because as we have talked about before, dance is such a specific thing. People, the consumer, all they see is people, bodies moving, and they're paying for it. But behind the scenes, there are all kinds of things that are moving in place, as we've discussed at length, to make sure that all of the things on stage happen, right? So let's talk to Nina. Nina, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us more about how you became involved.
Thank you so much, David. So I am Nina Thilas-Mohs, the unpronounceable surname of the decade. So thank you so much, Jamiel, for that humdinger of an introduction. I was just, I don't know about Zoom Queen, but I did go home on that one Tuesday when I'd lost every single job that I ever had, thinking I may have 6 weeks worth of money in my account to pay for everything. What do I do? So I just, you know, Googled teaching ballet online, I think. And then after that, I found Zoom. I had no idea what it was, pressed some buttons, tried to do some tutorials and set up class on the Friday. And that's how it went, because I thought, I know better than to trust any government you know, everyone is nodding. So yes. And it was actually, it was the lovely Luke again who introduced me. So thank you for that. And thank you. And I got the call and I was just, wow, somebody wants me involved in this, which is just, I would really try and get involved myself. If I saw it, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to do this. But I got like straight in there pretty much, you know, in the first bunch of people. And what I really love about it, like everybody else has already said it, but the longevity of this, and then looking at a situation from a different point of view that is a very difficult, maybe perceived as a very negative situation, of course, for everyone, but turning that into something that has longevity, where you can see this 10 years from now or 15 years from now and spreading all over the world like a lot of other really good things. I also so appreciated working with Matthew, amazing musician, and I almost sometimes lose the track of what I'm doing because I'm listening to him, not a good thing. But it was an entirely positive, beautiful, and giving experience. So thank you, Jamiel, for that. And seeing all these dancers just somehow through the music and the exercises coming together and feeling like they're alive again, because this whole thing is like being buried alive. Yeah. The whole industry just caved in on top of us. So, and it's not just, dancers have to keep fit, because there's no such thing as taking a 4-month hiatus and then suddenly going into a production. Doesn't exist. You will kill yourself or you won't get the job. There's the mental aspect, the mental health, the joy that it brings you. You come out of class, you feel better, you go and talk to somebody else, well, even if it's only on Zoom, at a phone call, and you spread that. And then we will have somehow an industry of people working and functioning when we can have productions again, and when we can do it again.
I think it's great. I mean, tell us where you are from and where you're located right now. I think it's very interesting. We had a conversation before.
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you. I'm Swedish, actually. I'm from Stockholm, and I've lived in London for probably longer than most of you have been born, but anyway. So I in Old Street. You're laughing, but it's true. I live in Old Street in London now. Yeah.
In Old Street, I know where that's near the Tube, right? It is a Tube. So.
It is right around the corner. I'm very lucky.
Yeah. You guys, I love London. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to get back. It's really upsetting what's happening now. Let's talk to Hanna. Hanna, I think you're the last one, and then we'll go back to Jamiel, and then we do a little round table. Tell us about yourself. Tell us how you came to be involved with Fun Freelance Dance.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Cardiff in Wales. And yeah, I participated as a dancer, and then I just taught my first class last week online, which was super scary, but absolutely amazing. Such a great opportunity. But yeah, I was freelancing I think I'd been freelancing for about less than a year when the pandemic hit. So that was great because I wasn't eligible for anything. So I decided to just go all out on sort of teaching online and stuff like that as well. I think there was something about sort of not being, I had lived in London, I trained in London, and I lived there for a couple of years. And I stopped dancing for a couple of years as well, actually. And then I moved back to Wales kind of around about the time that the pandemic hit. So I had a massive fear of like not being in London, feeling like I'm missing out anyway. Yeah, so it was definitely an isolating experience, as it was for everyone, but yeah, so then when I got the call from Jamiel, I felt like I was pulled out, and just sort of saved in a way. By the way, there is plenty of dance opportunities in Wales as well, but obviously nothing was happening. So yeah, just to put that out there as well. But yeah, so when Jamiel got my application and wanted me on board, I was absolutely thrilled. I felt really appreciated, which I think is something that as a freelancer we don't often get to feel anyway, let alone in a pandemic when we've kind of been put to the side a little bit. So yeah, I was so excited by the project because it was just so ambitious that I couldn't wrap my head around it. Like I almost didn't understand how it would even come about because it just sounded like nothing I've ever heard of before.
Let me ask you a question. When you say that, what was it about? What was it about it that was so ambitious to you? Like, so you couldn't wrap your head around it. This is what I'm hearing.
I think it was the idea that just pulling lots of different people together, creating almost like a network between people. Like I hadn't met most people before, you know, so it was super refreshing, and it felt like someone saw the need to nurture freelancers, and I just haven't been a part of that conversation before, or you know, it's just a given really that freelancing is hard, that's just the way it is, kind of thing. And it was just that someone kind of like, you know, brought us all together and gave us something so valuable. Someone said earlier that I think it's like it's hard anyway, let alone not in the pandemic. So yeah, and also I think there's in terms of the free classes as well, there's like there's a demand for it, and Jamiel is like meeting that demand with a really high quality classes that are not just about it's not just about keeping everyone going as well. It's about paying us, which is really important. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you another question, and anyone can answer this. Why aren't people qualified for payment when it's like an unemployment or a social scheme? Like if you're a freelancer, you don't qualify, or how do you qualify? Can anybody explain to me why?
So, someone else probably knows a bit more about this, but I just remember checking, and it said that so there was a certain fund where you had to be a freelance for at least a year, or maybe it was even 2 years, in order to qualify. And I hadn't been, and that was it. Yeah. I don't know why. Does anyone else have the answer to that? I don't know.
I think this will be Luke's forte.
Great.
Only because I did so much research on it, and you know, you had to have been, for certain grants from the government, you had to have been freelance for more than 3 years. You'd had to have had tax returns for 3 years to prove your income on that basis for you to then receive these grants, which actually I think when people did receive these grants, they will be paying those back. So it's not like, oh, here's a gift. It's like you're going to get taxed on that. So it then does also mess you up a little bit as well. And you think, you know, why? I don't want to go down a political rabbit hole, because I could be here for probably the next 15 hours. But, you know, the arts are always seen as kind of as nothing, you know. Oh, it's just the arts. It's just fluffing around and
socialist playground.
But, yeah, and
it's been bandied around. It's been bandied around. It's not.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a tremendous opportunity. I mean, yeah. What else can I say? I'm going to pitch it back to Jamiel. Jamiel, can you give us, or let's pretend that the audience is the person that you're about to speak to on this has no idea what even this is all about. They have no idea about the freelance, filling gaps, being able to provide work for people. How would you present this to someone who is sort of outside of this ecosystem of dance and what you've built?
So I think the first thing to point out to them is that if they're fans of some of the biggest companies in the UK, as dance companies, I won't name any, but many of the biggest names, they take dancers on self-employed freelance contracts. They're not full-time contracts, but a lot of those companies are government funded. So I think there was an assumption that the government would help those government funded self-employed freelance contracts in some way. That's the first thing that didn't happen. The second thing is that those dancers that then had contracts ended, and like we've talked about, weren't eligible for any form of government support, are the dancers that are going to be coming back to the stage if we survive long enough as a wider dance community. So I think the first this is about solving real world problems. And we talked about on the last podcast, it's great to be proactive. It's great to be planning for the future. However, someone also needs to be reactive. Someone needs to be providing a tangible and direct, immediate solution to keep things going in the meantime. So although there's many positives to committees and forums meeting and think tanks discussing, these are the problems in the future, what can we do? My personality and my approach to all my work would be, what can I do right now? That's where I was finding myself to be very effective at working. And this whole thing also started because I'd been wanting to work with Luke. I'm an independent choreographer and filmmaker, and I wanted to work with Luke. And I phoned up Luke, who's on his boat in London on the canal. And I said, Luke, I want to put you in this dance film. I want to do all of this. And it was Luke that said, I would love to do that, but I can't right now. I don't have access to class. I have to work these other jobs to keep myself going. This is going to have to wait. And that was a real problem for me as an independent creator, because I'd finally reached the point where I was getting bookings, I was getting work, I was getting commissions to make things, and they were saying, find your dancers. Well, I found my dancers, but I found them through Fun Freelance Dance. I realized that this was bigger than me and my career and what I wanted to create and do. There's a wider gamut of people here that need help. And I always bring it up. I don't think Luke brings it up himself, but he is an Olivier nominated dancer. He was a big influential figure on me in Scottish ballet. He was the first example of like a soloist I'd ever come across in the flesh. I could touch and, you know, communicate with and wind up a lot. So he was a real figurehead for me. And I couldn't believe that this person wasn't being given any form of help, despite the fact in public, the newspapers are putting him in the article on the Olivier Awards, or you know, the companies he was working for were still using images of him. In my head, they were the first people that would be looked after.
Before you go on, I want to interrupt you, because this is something that I saw at age 18. The people that were the structure in the dance world, this is in the US, there was a disconnect. There was a disconnect. Let's say even people who were dance writers, these people were independent. I mean, it wasn't like the record business back then, when like if you're an artist on a record label, they literally have you by the throat, and they are leading you through every single step. They control who's talking to you. They control what they pick, the song, the music. And of course, that's not necessarily the best, right? But being a freelancer is on the opposite side of that, where there's hardly any structure. And perhaps maybe when you guys made a decision to get into into the industry, all of these things were in place. But what we're seeing, Jamiel, and I think you know it now, is there's not only a pandemic, but there's a generational shift. And in that shift, you're going to lose information. People that know or have information aren't necessarily going to be able to pass it down to the next people coming up. And this pandemic is moving things so quickly that there's going to be holes.
I've had teachers on the team, on the hashtag team, that taught me as a student. And I've had student dancers who I've worked with as a choreographer age-wise below me. So this is a generational project. And I think the main thing to get across to those that don't understand yet what Fun Freelance Dance is and does is, I wanted to create an initiative that operated in the ways that I felt were correct for the arts. So, you know, a democratically led creative process. Everybody has a say. How do we set the rates? Well, we set the rates by discussing between each other, what should you be paid? What is the going rate? Matthew, for example, and the other 3 pianists, between all of them, and also outside pianists that weren't freelance but were able to tell me what, you know, should be the rate. We all set a very good rate, and that's a standard rate now for any Fun Freelance Dance engagement. Same for the dancers. We talked about the daily rate, and you know, my only regret with the initial launch is that we had to put it on Sundays, and Sundays is kind of an unusual day. Not always a working day. However, during the pandemic, I think any day could be a working day, because many days at a time were obviously off. One thing also that the democratic approach, the sort of collective consensus, which is a technological approach also, you know, this voting consensus on everything, that also worked really well in a creative setting. And I think that Bryony is an example. Maybe Bryony could talk to you about the creative circuits with the 4 stops that we did on that day where we had the 4 different things. So Bryony could talk you through that new structure of creation, basically.
Well, I'm gonna go to Bryony, and then what we're gonna do is wrap up. But I do want to throw this out as a question. What would be a motivation for me, just I want to say a bloke, but someone who's just walking around the streets of London, UK, to say, I should get involved in this? What is going to be there? What is going to motivate them besides, you know, all of these things that you've laid out are important, but for the common man that's on the street, what could you present to them? How could you appeal to them in terms of relating what you guys are going through with what they may be going through, and then they say, okay, I'm getting involved?
Well, I think involvement is the key word. So unlike, you know, other donation-based initiatives from dance companies, it's not you pay the money and watch the thing. Donors have the power to vote on these issues, to speak about these issues, to see in person, hopefully eventually, you know, large audiences. So it's almost like you buy a ticket, but instead of for a show, you get to see everything from a class to a creation process, and then eventually to a show. You're joining a team. So this hashtag team idea, collective, democratically formed creative ideas and outputs. You are not, you know, donating to me to then decide what we do. You are donating and deciding what we do. And that's why all the GoFundMe call outs that we do specify where your money is going. So like, for instance, with Free Class Initiative as an example, I'm saying that dancers need that class, that training in the morning as part of their standard movement diet, both physically and mentally. Otherwise, when we come to reopen, there will be no healthy pool of dancers to then perform on stage and buy tickets for. You can help this directly by giving us £75 for a freelance dance teacher, providing a job for the teacher, and providing an unlimited number of dancers with their training session for that day. If you've got 300 dancers and 1 teacher, it's like under 20p per person that you've funded there. Would you like to do that? And then they have the yes, no option. If they say no, that initiative dies because it's not going to work. And that's another thing, David, is that I don't push ideas that aren't going anywhere. The public have to decide that it's going somewhere. And with Free Class, further our last podcast, a very kind donor gave us £1,000, which has allowed me to put at least 10 more free classes on, and also commission a freelance dance writer as well. So, you know, that's what they wanted. It was written clearly, that's what it would pay for, and someone gave the money.
Well, hey, look, I think it's fantastic. I'm gonna start with Bryony, and then we're gonna do a quick round, and then we'll end, right? And this will be another episode that we can post. Bryony, what was the question, Jamiel, that what was the topic that you wanted her to expand
Just on? About the difference in the studio process. It's not only new funding models, it's not only new structures for teams, it's not only new ways of making decisions, but it's new practices in the studio, making use of things that maybe weren't deemed essential or had been, you know, classified in a certain way. For instance, a photographer is always at the front taking pictures, or at the side doing backstage shots, and sticking that photographer into the room and giving them a say. So Bryony's just a really good example. I can remember her going around all 4 stations. So if she wants to talk about those 4 stations.
What are the 4 stations?
The four stations, like the musician corner, the kind of the photographer corner, the choreographer corner. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
the performance sort of corner.
Okay, all the corners. Yeah, it was like such a magical thing that kind of happened that day, because I think there was, in amongst these kind of 4 stations, everyone was working on their select kind of thing, you know, and we were all moving around. The space became really malleable. So instead of it being one person telling us all what to do as well with the musician, it became this huge collaboration, but 4 collaborations all happening at once, rather than the bigger picture, which is what we tend to see, you know, daily with choreography and guess just daily practice, even in class, you know, it tends to be centralized around one person and the collective. And then what we sort of saw in that moment was that actually there were 4 things happening, but there were then like 10 brains all at once, also just feeding into this huge kind of melting pot. And I don't even know if we really achieved a final product as such. I don't think that was the aim of it even, but just what came out of it was for us this huge sense of achievement of the day for every single person in that room. But it just spread, which is what it continues to do even with the online stuff. We've like managed to spread this like wonderful way of creating that is so unusual in a space, to have everybody's heads working and have an equal say in what's going on. And
it's interesting, very interesting.
And the missing station, of course, is the audience. So the station I'd like to add to that would be our supporters in the audience when distancing and all of that's done correctly and allowed, which at the time nobody was allowed unless they were working. That's what I'd like, would be that final pillar, which is the people that paid for it to happen to be involved in it.
Well, look, I'm going to let everyone have a last word in, and Jamiel, when this is over, I'm going to find my original proposal for the dance company that I created when I was here in Switzerland. So it's very similar to what you just laid out with the team. And it's just interesting that it's now a pandemic that is actually moving this idea into place. So it's one of the reasons why when you and I started talking, I'm like, okay, yeah, come on, let's do it. Because, you know, yes, there's a moment where you need someone who's the head, a central figure, but a lot of times the best work isn't necessarily going to come out of one person, right? Even though the way that most people work is that there's one person that's in charge and then they hire everybody else and they tell them what to do, right? But we know the best work doesn't necessarily come out of one mind. And that's what's happening here is just a testament to that idea in and of itself. So let's go around real quickly. Matthew, is there anything that you want to say before we close? We'll go around Matthew, then Nina, then Luke, Hanna, and then Sean, and back to Bryony, and then Jamiel. Like one or two sentences.
The first thing I'd like to say publicly is thank you very much to Jamiel. Because you know, as soon as the phone flashes and it's Jamiel's name, that something good is going to come out of that phone conversation. And you were saying earlier about resistance to this. I don't think there's been any resistance because it's, you know, it's always a good thing that's going to come out of a phone call or a class or a choreography session or anything like that. So yeah, massive thank you. And let's just keep going and keep building, keep, you know, bigger and better and make it something that's absolutely massive.
Nina, what about you?
For me too, real gratitude for the team effort, work, everything from Jamiel and all the ideas from you. And I think what I would like to focus on is to try and get it out to people who are not in the arts, who are not in that world, and just kind of go, have a look at this and just see, because this is sort of different and you can be involved, just like you said, Jamiel, earlier. And I think that's where the strength will come from as well, so that we involve everybody, because it's not our arts, it's everybody's.
Yeah. Luke, what about you?
Well, I think both Matthew and Nina have both put it perfectly to thank Jamiel, obviously the brainchild of this whole movement, which is great. So yes, thank you, Jamiel. And I think also the other thing I wanted just to kind of go back on before what you were saying earlier, David, was that it is a great thing that we're breaking down this, I guess, this structure of what a company should be, or things like that. And I want to say thank you to the other dancers and the other creatives who were involved in this whole thing, was that there wasn't someone telling us what to do, but we were all listening to each other and respecting each other and respecting each other's decisions, opinions, And there was never a moment where it was tense or awkward. It always came from a place of love, and we were listening to each other. And that's why I think it really works, and why it's still working, is that there's this element and space for respect and respecting each other's craft, which I think is amazing in a world that we actually live in that isn't sometimes very kind. So that's my 2 pence worth.
Okay, thanks. And Hanna, and for you?
Yeah, that was so beautifully put. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I'm just really keen to keep it moving and growing. I think we all needed the catalyst that is Jamiel to get it up and running and going. And then you also need, just relating to what you just said, David, about the sort of elements of what you need to get that sort of good quality product out there. I think we talked about this the other day. But you also need like a group of keen, interested, open people, like bunch of people. And I think that's what happened as well. Like Luke just said as well, we were just so open and we were listening. And that was really, really special. And then we also need people like you, David. So thank you so much for having us on the podcast, for sparking this joy and inspiration that we all feel. I feel quite fired up. I don't know about anyone else, but yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for agreeing to be on. Sean, what would you like to say as a closing?
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate again, thank you so much to Jamiel and everyone else here, and everyone else who isn't here that's involved in this, which is such an enormous group of people now, which is brilliant. And I think for me, it was such an exciting thing because we were so collaborative, and it is such an exciting thing because it's so collaborative, and it's going to continue to be such an exciting thing because of that, because it's growing wider. And it's something Jamiel said about kind of how would this appeal to someone who, is completely outside of this world. And I think it is that direct thing, that each action taken by each individual has a direct impact when it's done in this way. The fact is that at the beginning of this year, we went back into a lockdown, and within, I don't know, like a week or 2 weeks, we had like a free professional level class every day. And in all honesty, I'm probably in some of the best dance shape I've been in my life, which is amazing for me personally, but it gives me so much confidence going forward, in that in the short term, it fixed the immediate problem in front of me, but that's what it's kept doing, is it fixes these problems, and it doesn't do it with any kind of quick fix. It's not just trying to plug holes, it's trying to create a real platform. And I'm enormously thankful to Jamiel for that, and thankful to everyone else that's involved in it. And I think it's so exciting going forwards. And yeah, I'm with Hanna, I'm fired up.
Okay. Well, Bryony, we'll go back to you, and then Jamiel, we're running short on time. We're going to get out of here before the hour ends. Bryony, what you say your final words, and then we go back to Jamiel, and then we will close. And I have apparently somebody's trying to get in touch with me, so I can't turn it off. And so you're next, Bryony.
Very quickly, I think just everything that everyone says, obviously, you can hear it. Everyone's so passionate and loves each other and loves the project and loves Jamiel. But I think the key thing really is that this has come from and in time with the pandemic. But the problem, it doesn't stop once the pandemic ends. The pandemic won't necessarily end, we're all gonna have to get vaccinated, yada, 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 separate story. But freelance work is a constant. It's a constant. And for us too, life will start picking up, but this will we will continuously need this kind of, I guess, group and network of freelancers that we don't have. As a freelancer, regardless of the pandemic, we already feel isolated, like Hanna said. It's not just of this time, it is just a general feel. So I think that the importance of this will continue. Like, it doesn't stop once this stops. It is something that will continue to be needed. And actually the growth, I'm so excited, to see what does happen. Hopefully more and more and more, that's what we want. But yeah, everyone's kind of put everything everything that I wanted to say. But
well, thank you very much. Thank you. And Jamiel, we'll give you the last word before we close out. Anything else you'd like to add? And
yes. Definitely. Well, the first thing, like we talked about in the last podcast, when people say thank you, it feels good, but also this has to happen. There is no other solution. This has to be happening. So my reaction to thank you is yes, but this has to happen. So there is no other alternative. And I want to say this. So this is only 25%, maybe not even that, of a very large team now of people that have come on to support and teach for Fun Freelance Dance. If you are a freelance dance artist, if you are any kind of artist supporting dance, if you are any kind of supporting service for dance, and you've heard this and want to know about Fun Freelance Dance, I am not Fun Freelance Dance. You are Fun Freelance Dance. So if you're in another country, another city, anywhere, and you think that you can take this label and do what we're doing in your area, this belongs to you. I have a website, I can manage it all, I can make everything happen and send it out. But until someone in, for instance, New York or some other city contacts me and says, look, I want to do what you're doing here, it won't happen. So I need someone out there, wherever you are, whatever country, drop me an email, say, look, I think I can make a class happen, or even the Zoom classes. I mean, we live in a decentralized world right now. We can make these Zoom classes happen internationally. So that's what I'm going to say. My call out right now is anybody out there that works in this circle. This is not UK centric. This is worldwide and belongs to all of us.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for making the time available to tell us what's happening with Fun Freelance Dance. The t-shirts are great. If you guys aren't connected to me on Facebook, make sure that you connect, and we'll make this thing happen and move the video as quickly through the rest of the system that I have in place to get the word out. And with that, have a great rest of your weekend, rest of your Saturday, and we will be in contact very soon.
Thank you, David.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, David.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.